Okay. Where do I
Just start from the beginning.
Okay, so it happened in 2014. It was on May 4th, and we were in a little red van. It was me, my younger brother, my older brother, my youngest sister, my grandma, and my mom. We were all the people in the car. On the right side of the little van, it was my grandmother, my little sister, then I. Then on the left side, it was my mom driving. It was my brother at the time, sister technically, but then it was my little brother who was sitting right next to me. We were all in the van, and I had fallen asleep because I was angry because I was going to apparently get in trouble later. It was something about a toy and me bugging one of the church people about it, but it didn't matter, and I was asleep. I didn't know what happened, but when I woke up, I figured everything out, I guess. I thought the car had stopped or something, and I woke up in a haze. It was blurry, and it was hard to see things, but my vision soon adjusted, and everything was there in place. We all seemed unconscious, and I unbuckled myself only to go over to check forward, but really I couldn't, so I just sat back down, and my arm wasn't feeling anything, and I just started to shake my brother who was next to me, and he eventually woke up and unbuckled himself. Next thing you know, the windows were being broken by a man who was helping me get out of the car. The man then helped put me down while a bunch of firefighters were checking on us. And I was not really sure what was happening still. And I looked over on my side and I saw my mother and I saw my little sister. My little sister's face had been torn up, and I swear I could just see this open wound all across her face. And I saw my mother who was just unconscious and I thought she was dead. Then the woman came up to me and said, "Don't look over there, sweetie." And I went over to look at my arm, which I hadn't felt nothing of, and I was suddenly conscious to the fact that I was bleeding. According to my siblings, my bone was out, but what I saw, I thought it was like a stick or something. I swear to God it wasn't a bone, but it apparently was. Then we were just told to calm down for a minute. I told the firefighter that my arm felt numb and I couldn't feel anything. But I think that's just something I remember. My younger brother was crying intensely, and I really didn't know what my older brother was doing. He was right next to me, but I didn't pay attention really. All I did was pay attention to my younger brother. Then we were taken to, well, at first I was about to be taken into an ambulance, but they said something about my blood or something like that. And I was suddenly removed from the ambulance and taken into a helicopter with my siblings. We were all in the same helicopter, according to everyone's experiences. I just told Logan to, "Don't worry about it, we're going to be okay." I kept trying to comfort him because he was crying so loud. It started to get to me in a way. And I was told by one of the people on the helicopter that I was a very brave person. Then we arrived at the hospital where I kept kind of fading in and out. I kept trying to sleep because I felt so tired, but they kept trying to keep me up because I needed to be up for this test. At one point, I remember my dad being there. He was helping me out. He was encouraging me to keep staying up and saying I would almost be over. And by the time I last fell asleep, I then woke up, and I woke up in the hospital room, and I vomited. I vomited a bunch of hot Cheetos, because that's literally all I kind of ate at that part. And then we just stood there. I was told I was in ICU on Brothers from Loma. Apparently I'd gotten more of the worst injuries, although I kind of think that I wasn't. I'd broken my arm in 2 places, and essentially I had a small fracture line on my spine, but it healed quite quickly, so I didn't need a back brace. from that day forward, I kind of heard things about the whole accident. The news kept misconstruing us. It was more stereotyping our accident, blaming us out drunk driving, even though friends and people who were there swear to God that the man in the other car had a phone. They called us drunks because apparently we're Mexicans and it was nearly the 5th of May, Cinco de Mayo, that drunk. But then it was just a party. It was a Jehovah's Witness wedding, for God's sakes.
So tell me, how has that experience changed your life, being in that accident?
To be honest, it kind of was worse at first. I didn't know how to react to things. I very much just became very self-isolating, as I thought I was just helping out the family by not showing my own feelings. Apparently, it only made things worse. And I was very closed off, and nothing was improving. I thought I was fine. And I kept just pushing through everything, because I didn't want to reveal myself to the world. Then, I kind of just think that became a part of me. Very much bottled up feelings. I became one of the most toxic elements of my life, which has ruined many things. And it's kind of become a staple of my own problems. But it's something it's just something I kind of have to work with. Because if anything, it'll take a long time to reverse that kind of thing. Because it's just become a staple. It's a bottling pressure until the bottle explodes and then it reconstructs itself and does it all over again. It's kind of just how it runs now. And then it just kind of made me a tougher person overall. I've become very, I've become very okay with everything. I just feel like I never want to be in that situation again. It's also kind of changed my views on a lot of things. I really don't like texting and driving. I really hate just driving in general. It gives me massive ideal fear. Because I just don't want to put another person into a situation like that. I've also just had fears about the ideas of being an adult. Considering the idea of the whole blame system, it almost seems kind of weird. I've never exactly liked news, and politics has now become one of the worst things I've ever hated. Because it seems so we just drag back to the idea of a bunch of adults fighting over seemingly stupid things, blaming each other and saying random lines and crap. That's why I think I just don't connect with politics. But it's also led to my fascination with escapism and fantasy. I think, if anything, I became more into fantasy because of the idea of this whole world, where seemingly everything that could go wrong could still be somewhat fixed, or somewhat very better. And that's why I think I've just become more attached to it. Feels nicer. Feels really nice. And even though it's not the healthiest thing, it's something, at least that's made my mind more creative. I also got into the arts because of my grandmother. Her final always wishes that I at least become better at it, and I feel like I've kind of become better at it. And I feel like, if anything, even though she's not exactly the one who would like the fantasy stuff, I think she would still be proud of my developments in art.